Hello, and thank you for joining us for ABC24 This Week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories, and I hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday. We are talking all things National Guard, but first let's bring in today's panelists. Of course, as always, ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. We have Deidre Malone of the Carter Malone Group, and we have Luke Simbel from the Shelby County Republican Party Vice Chair, I should say. So this whole show is focused on the National Guard troops coming to Memphis. First, we'll talk about President Trump signing the memorandum and the Tennessee lawmakers who were present at the Oval Office. Then we'll get into how Memphis leaders on both sides are responding and taking action since the announcement. And then lastly, we'll get into the details of the plan, what we know and what we still have yet to find out. So let's back it up to Monday when President Trump's signature made the deployment to Memphis official.
Today, at the request of Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, who's standing with us, as you know, I'm signing a presidential memorandum to establish the Memphis Safe Task Force.
So there it is, President Trump officially signing off on deploying National Guard troops to Memphis. You can see Tennessee Senators Marsha Blackburn, Bill Hagerty, and Governor Bill Lee standing behind him. Now, the Memphis Safe Task Force enlists over a dozen agencies to work with local law enforcement on the streets of Memphis. Here's what those Tennessee leaders who were present in that moment said after Trump signed the memorandum.
Thank you for your commitment for federal resources to the great city of Memphis. And it is a great city, and it has a great history and a great legacy. And we are very hopeful and excited about the prospect of moving that city forward. I've been in office 7 years. I'm tired of crime holding the great city of Memphis back.
I want to say a thank you to Director Patel because he had promised that he would come into Memphis. We've had Operation Viper there this summer. There have been over 500 arrests. There are over 100 indictments. And Memphis had the best stats they have had in years this past August.
And this is an issue that's plagued Memphis since I was a boy, Mr. President. And it's time that we addressed it, and I appreciate your leadership allowing us to do that. And the team that you've assembled here is going to help us deliver the most fundamental responsibility of our government, and that's public safety. This shouldn't be a partisan issue.
All right, so I'm going to open it up now to discussion. Otis, I always like when you start us off here. So what did you make of this memorandum signing?
Well, it was typical President Trump. He likes to have a fawning audience around him, and that's what he had here. And he had it from the three politicians from Tennessee. I thought it was notable that Bill Lee was saying the right things there. But he's been dragged along kicking and screaming about this. He did not want to do this 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think he was forced to do it. And so now he's trying to make the best of a bad situation here. In terms of what Senator Blackburn said, yeah, Operation Viper has been in effect, but crime has been going down long before Operation Viper started. It started going down last year. And the numbers show that. And if you're going to believe one set of numbers, you got to believe the others as well. I just think the whole thing was typical Trump performance. But now that we are in this situation, it's time to make the best of it.
And Luke, these are our leaders from your fellow party. So what did you just think of the interactions and their initial, what they had to say right after the signing?
We know Senator Blackburn has been very vocal on this issue, wanting federal resources to come to Shelby County and Memphis. Hagerty, the same. And you're right, Governor Lee has changed his position. It was reported 3 weeks ago. He was saying that this was not, National Guard specifically, was not on the table. I think that to his credit, he listened to the bit of outcry from Shelby County. I know Republicans were really passionate about this, and they felt that, you know, we're sending the National Guard or the Tennessee Guard to Washington, D.C. What about Memphis? Can we look at Memphis too? And so to his credit, he listened. He is sending another surge of THP here to do routine traffic stops. And so thank you, Governor Lee, for listening. But I think the people, particularly the Republican Party of Shelby County, is very pleased with the result.
So we did see Tennessee state leaders, but we didn't really see any Memphis-specific leadership behind President Trump there. So, Deidre, what do you make of that, the lack of Memphis leadership? Do you think that they were asked to be there?
They probably were not asked, and they should have been asked because, you know, at one time the president said that Mayor Young was happy about the National Guard coming, and the mayor clearly said he is not happy about it. The mayor's asked for resources, so if they really want to give the city of Memphis what they request, then they need additional resources, and that's funding. And so, you know, 21 months into this, crime is down. It just didn't happen 5 months ago. It's been going on for 21 months. That's what MPD has said. And then one of the Republicans that everybody knows, who's the president of the Memphis Crime Commission, Bill Gibbons, who is the former commissioner of
public safety
and Homeland Security for the
Security.
state. I mean, he even acknowledges that crime's down. So if the president and the governor wanted to do something specific, they should have listened to the mayor of Memphis and given him what he requested.
And to Deidre's point about whether local Democrats, and especially in city government, were either invited to come or didn't come, I don't think they were invited to come either.
Right.
And I don't think they wanted to be there. But I don't think they were invited because this was pretty much a scripted performance here. And I don't think they wanted to take the risk of a Democrat from Memphis being in the room and saying something that didn't fall in line with everybody else that was there. So no, I don't think they were invited. But even if they were, they didn't want to be there because of the politics.
Particularly Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, I think after his cabinet, he made very clear. But I will say about the crime stats, you know, Operation Viper, we've had over 500 arrests of routine criminals in the city of Memphis since it started about 4 months ago, about 110 indictments in federal court. That is going to have an impact. Getting 500 routine criminals off the streets of Memphis is going to have a major impact, and President Trump addressed that in his press conference. He said that first 20 to 25% drop in violent crime, that's the quote-unquote easy part. The hard part is going into the gangs, infiltrating some of these organizations, and arresting the rest. And so I think Operation Viper has been hugely successful, and now the goal is to have additional federal agencies coming in to get the harder criminals that we need to catch.
So what would really be good for Tennessee would be to repeal the permitless law legislation in the state, because guns in this community is the real issue. And so, but the state of Tennessee, the legislature thinks, okay, everybody should be able to carry a gun. Guns are a major issue in Memphis and Shelby County, and that's a real issue, and the state needs to look at that.
Look, criminals have always had permitless carry. Felons in possessions of a firearm have always had permitless carry because they don't obey the law. And the only folks who obey gun laws in the state of Tennessee are the law-abiding citizens who we don't worry about anyway.
We're going to agree to disagree on that, Luke. We're just going to have to.
And while criminals may have always thought that they had permitless carry, they haven't always had the opportunity with guns in cars, permitless carry guns in cars, that they were breaking in the cars trying to see if there is one, and if there is one, they obviously take that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying here.
Right.
And also with the Operation Viper, I'm not criticizing Operation Viper. I think that they've done a good job. But the crime reduction is not just because of Operation Viper.
Sure, and I do think we should give credit to MPD for partnering with our federal agencies. They're very determined to collaborate to arrest criminals. But I do want to be careful when we talk about guns in cars, about blaming the victims of crimes rather than the criminals. We've made a decision, I think, in this country. Sexual assault would be an example where we don't blame the victim no matter what she is wearing. Here in this community, we don't blame the victims of crime. We need to aggressively prosecute the criminals and make it clear that they are the ones at fault for crime in our community.
We're blaming the legislators.
That's who we're blaming right now.
When I'm not blaming the victim. We're blaming the legislators for thinking that guns everywhere is the answer.
Well, and I think the district attorney is the best person who is most equipped to go after criminals who shouldn't have guns in the first place or who are stealing guns. And so, if you recall, earlier this year, he had said he was going to offer diversion to felons in possession when the underlying felony was nonviolent, and there was public outcry about that. No, he is the best person to aggressively prosecute folks who should not have guns in the first place. And so I would rather, instead of blaming the victims whose guns are stolen, I would rather look at the criminals.
But we're not looking at the victims. We're talking about the legislature that actually created the law, and that's the issue.
Okay, we're going to get into some of when I don't have to say a lot. I know it's going to be a great show. No, that's fine.
We're sorry.
Clearly, we see the lines are drawn in the sand, and we're actually going to get more into that on the Memphis-specific leadership who clearly drew lines in the sand this week. We'll get right back to that after the break.